detective? I didn't think you'd actually show up. Honestly, I thought my email would end up in your spam folder, like the last 3 times I tried reaching out to the authorities. But I suppose when the missing persons count hits double digits and parents start threatening lawsuits, even the most skeptical police department has to pay some attention. My name is David Lee. I'm 38 years old, married, father of 2 boys. I work the night shift at St. Helena Hospital, or more accurately, at what used to be St. Helena Hospital before it closed its doors in 2019. The building still stands. 8 floors of empty corridors and silent rooms, waiting for demolition or sale, whichever comes first. Until then, they keep a skeleton crew of security guards to protect the assets and prevent vandalism. That's where I come in. I never imagined this would be my life. 5 years ago, I was operating forklifts at a manufacturing plant in the industrial district, pulling decent overtime and saving up for my kids' college funds. Then the plant closed, moved operations overseas like so many others. Suddenly, I was 33 years old, with a mortgage, 2 young children, and a wife who'd just been diagnosed with lupus. Her medical bills weren't getting any smaller, and jobs in this economy weren't exactly falling from the sky. When I saw the ad for night security at St. Helena, I didn't ask many questions. The pay was surprisingly good for what seemed like simple work. Walk the floors, check the doors, make sure nobody breaks in to steal copper wiring or old medical equipment. My shift runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 nights a week. During those 8 hours, I'm alone in a building that once held hundreds of patients, doctors, nurses, and staff. Now it's just me, my flashlight, and the ghosts of whatever happened here before the doors closed. Well, not entirely alone. I have Luna. Luna is a 6-year-old German Shepherd, retired from search and rescue after she injured her rear leg during a building collapse operation 2 years ago. I adopted her from the County Animal Services when I started this job. They told me she'd been trained for disaster response, could detect people buried under rubble, and had an exceptional sense of danger. What they didn't tell me was that she'd refuse to go near certain parts of this hospital, no matter how much I coaxed her. The first week I brought Luna to work, I thought it would be nice to have company during those long, empty hours. She wore a vest I bought online with K9 Unit printed on it, mostly as a joke, but also because it made her look official if anyone questioned why I had a dog on duty. Luna took her job seriously from day one. She'd walk patrol routes with me, ears alert, nose working, always a few steps ahead like she was clearing the path. But there were places she wouldn't go. Floor 8, for instance. The old psychiatric ward. Luna would stop at the stairwell door leading up to that floor and plant herself like a statue. No amount of treats or encouragement could convince her to climb those stairs. At first, I thought maybe she smelled something up there, some chemical residue from when the hospital was operational. But it wasn't just floor 8. There were specific rooms on other floors, certain sections of hallway, where Luna would suddenly stop, whimper, and press herself against my legs. I learned quickly that when Luna acted that way, I should trust her instincts over my own. The building itself is a relic from the 1970s, built during that era of institutional architecture when everything was concrete, fluorescent lights, and beige walls. 8 floors total. The basement houses the old morgue and storage areas. Ground floor is emergency services and administration. Floors 2 through 6 were general patient wards, each floor dedicated to different specialties: cardiology, surgery, oncology, pediatrics, orthopedics. Floor 7 was intensive care and the special care units where the most critical patients stayed. And floor 8, as I mentioned, was psychiatric care. When St. Helena closed, they didn't do much to clear it out. Most of the furniture remained: hospital beds, medical equipment, chairs in waiting rooms, even some paperwork in filing cabinets. They stripped the valuable stuff, the newer machines and computers, but left behind this hollow shell that still looked like a hospital, just frozen in time. Walking through it at night feels like exploring a ship abandoned at sea. Everything is where it should be, but nobody's home. Except lately, I've started wondering if that's really true. It started in July. Summer break, when teenagers have too much free time and not enough sense. I began noticing signs that people were getting into the building. Cigarette butts in stairwells, empty energy drink cans, graffiti tags appearing overnight in areas I'd cleared the day before. At first, I assumed it was just local kids treating the place like an abandoned playground. I'd chase them out when I caught them, threaten to call their parents, and think that was the end of it. But they kept coming back. Different kids, different nights, but with an eerie similarity in their behavior. They always arrived around midnight. They always carried phones with cameras or flashlights. And most importantly, they always seemed to know exactly where they were going, like they were following a map I couldn't see. The breakthrough came on August 2nd when I caught a kid named Ethan trying to pry open the main elevator with a screwdriver. He was maybe 17, wearing a hoodie despite the summer heat, and he looked genuinely surprised when I grabbed his shoulder. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "You don't know?" he said, staring at me like I was the crazy one. "This is the St. Helena Challenge." That's when he showed me his phone. Reddit threads, TikTok videos, even a dedicated Discord server. Hundreds, maybe thousands of posts about something called the St. Helena Midnight Protocol. According to the legend spreading across social media, there were 5 rules, 5 steps to complete inside this hospital after midnight. If you completed all 5, you'd witness something not of this world. Some posts claimed you'd see ghosts. Others said you'd unlock hidden rooms. A few promised you'd meet whatever was really living in the abandoned building. I told Ethan it was bullshit. Urban legend garbage that bored kids made up for internet points. But he just shook his head and showed me another page. A missing persons list. 11 names. All teenagers between 14 and 19. All last confirmed seen at or near St. Helena Hospital. That's when I knew this wasn't just kids playing games. Something was happening here. Something dangerous. And I was standing in the middle of it. The first rule is called the room call, and it serves as the gateway to everything that follows. According to the protocol documented across various social media platforms, you must enter St. Helena Hospital at exactly midnight, not 11:59 p.m. or 12:01 a.m., but precisely at midnight. The timing seems to be crucial to whatever mechanism drives this phenomenon. You must use the main emergency room entrance, the double doors facing Hawthorne Street with the faded red emergency sign still hanging above them. Side entrances don't work. Staff entrances are invalid. The loading dock won't suffice. It has to be the main doors where ambulances once pulled up to deliver patients in crisis, where families ran through in panic hoping their loved ones could be saved. Once inside, the rule instructs you to walk directly to the reception desk in the emergency room waiting area. No detours, no exploring, straight to the desk. Behind that desk, pushed against the wall and covered in a layer of dust, sits an old landline telephone. It's beige, boxy, the kind of phone that was standard in the 1990s before cell phones made them obsolete. According to maintenance records and the hospital's final systems audit, that phone was disconnected from the hospital network when operations ceased in 2019. There's no active phone line running to it. The building's telecommunications were shut down. That phone shouldn't work. But after midnight, according to dozens of testimonials online, it rings. The rule is deceptively simple. When the phone rings, pick it up. Don't speak. Don't ask questions. Just listen. If you hear a female voice say, "Patient in room 237 needs assistance," you've successfully completed Rule 1. You're permitted to proceed to Rule 2. But if you hear any other message, especially if you hear your own voice speaking back to you, you're supposed to hang up immediately and leave the building before 12:05 a.m. Those who ignore this warning, who stay after hearing the wrong message, tend to vanish into St. Helena's many dark corners. I dismiss this as creative fiction, the kind of elaborate mythology that grows around abandoned places. Every supposedly haunted location has its rituals and rules, usually invented by people with active imaginations and too much time on social media. Then I experienced it myself. August 14th, just past midnight. I was on floor 3, halfway through my second patrol of the evening. Luna was walking beside me, calm and professional as always, when suddenly she stopped mid-stride. Her ears shot straight up. Her entire body went rigid, and she stared down through the open stairwell toward the ground floor. I followed her gaze but saw nothing unusual, just the dim emergency lighting creating long shadows across the empty reception area 8 floors below. Then I heard it. Faint but unmistakable. A phone ringing. That old-fashioned mechanical ring, not the electronic trill of modern phones, but the classic bell-in-a-box sound that you only hear in antique stores or period movies nowadays. I took the stairs down, Luna following reluctantly, clearly unhappy about whatever she was sensing. When we reached the ground floor and approached the emergency room reception desk, I could see the beige landline phone vibrating slightly with each ring. Dust particles floated up around it, like it was waking from a long sleep. I checked my watch. 12:02 a.m. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was impossible. Electrical malfunction, maybe. Some residual current in the old wiring creating a phantom ring. Acoustics playing tricks. But rational explanations didn't stop my hands from shaking as I reached for the receiver. I lifted it to my ear. "This is security," I started to say, habit making me identify myself. A woman's voice cut through before I could finish. Crystal clear despite coming through a supposedly dead phone line. "Patient in room 237 needs assistance." The voice was professional, clinical, the kind of tone you'd expect from a nurse making a routine notification. But there was something underneath it, something I can't quite describe. It sounded too perfect, too precisely calibrated. Then came a dial tone, a sound that shouldn't exist on a disconnected line. Luna barked once, sharp and urgent. Her warning bark, that meant we needed to move now. I hung up the phone and stepped back from the desk, my heart hammering in my chest. We retreated to the security office on the ground floor, and I spent the next hour trying to rationalize what had just happened. The next morning, I researched room 237. It's located on floor 2, in what used to be the cardiology wing, a standard single-patient room with a window overlooking the parking lot. According to hospital records that I accessed through old system archives, room 237 was sealed and taken out of rotation in March 2017 after a patient named Robert Chen committed suicide. Official incident report stated he'd hung himself using bed sheets knotted together. He'd been admitted for cardiac monitoring after a minor heart attack, was expected to make a full recovery, but hanged himself during the night shift when staffing was minimal. Hospital administration decided to close the room permanently, partly out of respect and partly due to staff superstition. Over the next 3 weeks, I caught 4 separate groups of teenagers attempting to access room 237. Every single one claimed they'd received the call. They'd picked up the phone, heard the message about room 237, and felt compelled to find that specific room. One girl particularly haunts me. Maya, 16 years old, honor student with a bright future. I found her standing outside the locked door of room 237 at 12:30 a.m., tears streaming down her face. When I asked what she was doing, she said she'd picked up the phone and heard her mother's voice. Her mother had died of cancer 8 months earlier. The voice on the phone had said, "Maya, you should have been there. You should have saved me." Maya left that night and never came back to St. Helena. But not everyone runs fast enough. Some of these kids believe they're being called forward for a reason, chosen for something special. They don't understand they're walking into a carefully constructed trap until it closes around them. If you successfully complete Rule 1, if you hear the correct message and maintain your composure, the protocol directs you to floor 4 for the second test. You must use the stairs to reach floor 4, never the elevator. The rule explicitly forbids elevator use between rules 1 and 2, though the reasoning isn't clear from the online documentation. When you reach floor 4, you'll find yourself in a long corridor stretching approximately 150 feet, lined with patient rooms on both sides. 24 rooms total, numbered sequentially, from 401 to 424. This floor once housed the oncology department, where cancer patients underwent treatment, recovery, and sometimes their final days. During normal conditions, meaning anytime I walk this floor, during my regular patrols, all the doors are closed and secured. The hospital's centralized locking system died when the power was cut, but the doors themselves remain shut, held by their own weight and old-fashioned latches. I've checked them hundreds of times. They don't open on their own. But after midnight following Rule 1, some doors open. Not all of them, not even most of them, but always at least 2 or 3. Which specific doors open seems to vary from night to night, person to person. There's no consistent pattern I've been able to identify. The second rule is deceptively straightforward. Walk from one end of the hallway to the other without stopping. Don't turn around, don't speak, or make noise. And most critically, don't look into any open rooms, no matter what you hear or see in your peripheral vision. Teenagers who've attempted this describe it as a test of willpower. They report feeling an almost physical pull toward the open doorways, a compulsion to turn their heads and look inside. Some claim they hear voices calling their names. Others report seeing movement in the corners of their eyes, shadows that shouldn't exist in empty rooms. A few describe feeling breath on their necks or hands, brushing against their shoulders as they walk past open doors. I've walked floor 4 more times than I can count during my regular patrols. During daylight hours or early evening before midnight, it's just another abandoned hospital wing. Sad in the way abandoned places are sad, full of empty beds and silent equipment that once served a purpose. The rooms smell of dust and old antiseptic, nothing more. But after midnight, especially between 12:15 and 12:45 a.m., the atmosphere transforms in ways I struggle to articulate. The air becomes noticeably heavier, harder to breathe, like the oxygen content has dropped slightly. Temperature plummets, even though the building has no active climate control. And most disturbing of all, doors that I know were closed during my earlier rounds now stand open, some fully ajar, others just cracked a few inches. September 3rd, 12:40 a.m. remains burned into my memory. Luna and I entered the floor 4 main corridor during our standard patrol route. The emergency lighting cast everything in sickly yellow, creating shadows that seemed too dark, too solid. Immediately, I noticed 3 doors standing open, rooms 408, 412, and 419. Luna stopped walking. She didn't growl, didn't bark, just froze mid-step and stared at those open doorways with an intensity I'd never seen from her before. Her entire body was rigid, tail straight out, ears forward, every muscle tensed like she was preparing to either fight or run. I remembered Mark's note from my first week, the warning he'd left with my keys. Don't look inside the rooms on floor 4 after midnight. At the time, I'd thought it was just veteran guard hazing, trying to spook the new guy with ghost stories. But standing there with Luna trembling beside me, with those doors gaping open like mouths, I understood Mark hadn't been joking. But I'm security. Investigating anomalies is literally my job description. I turned my flashlight toward room 408, the nearest open door, and pointed the beam inside. The light illuminated a standard hospital room. Single bed with an old mattress, still made up with yellowed sheets. An IV pole standing beside the bed, lines tangled and hanging loose. A rolling table pushed against the wall. And on the bed, under a thin blanket, the clear outline of a human form lying flat. My rational mind tried to explain it. Leftover bedding bunched up to create the illusion of a body, shadows and light, playing tricks on my perception. But then my flashlight beam hit the form directly and it sat up. Not quickly, like someone startled awake, but slowly, deliberately, like something that had been waiting patiently for me to look. I couldn't see facial features clearly, just the silhouette of a head turning toward me. The shape was wrong somehow, proportions slightly off, in ways I couldn't quite identify. And then the face caught the light, and I saw its smile. Too wide, too many teeth, stretching across a face that shouldn't be able to smile that way without tearing. Luna erupted into barking, deep and vicious, the sound she'd been trained to use when confronting dangerous suspects. I backed away, keeping the flashlight trained on the doorway, as the figure began sliding off the bed with movements that looked like someone learning to control a body they didn't quite fit inside. We retreated to the stairwell, Luna pressing against my legs, essentially herding me away from whatever was emerging from room 408. Behind us I heard sounds, footsteps that hit the floor wrong, breathing that sounded wet and labored, and underneath it all, that too wide smile making sounds that might have been laughter. When I checked security footage later, the floor 4 cameras showed nothing but static during that entire 15-minute period. No recording, no evidence, just dead pixels and white noise. Rule 3 is where most people disappear completely. If you've survived the first 2 rules, you return to the ground floor and approach the main elevator near the emergency room entrance. This isn't the freight elevator in the basement or the small service lift by the staff area. It must be the primary patient elevator, the one that once transported hospital beds between floors. The elevator has a standard button panel, B for basement, G for ground floor, and buttons numbered 2 through 8 representing the hospital's floors. Under normal circumstances, these are the only buttons that exist. I've ridden this elevator countless times during my patrols, and the panel has always shown these 10 buttons, nothing more. But according to the protocol, if you've completed rules 1 and 2 correctly, a new button appears after midnight. Button 9. Floor 9. St. Helena Hospital only has 8 floors. The architectural plans, building permits, and structural surveys all confirm this. There is no floor 9. The elevator shaft doesn't extend high enough for another level. It's physically impossible. Yet the button appears? I didn't believe this until September 19th. After chasing away another group of teenagers, I decided to investigate the elevator myself. Luna refused to enter with me, which should have been my first warning. She stood outside the elevator doors, whining softly, asking me not to go in. I stepped inside at 12:15 a.m. The panel showed the normal buttons. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling stupid for even checking. This whole thing was just internet hysteria. Bored kids playing elaborate pranks on each other. Then the elevator lights flickered once. Just once, barely noticeable. When I looked back at the panel, there was a new button glowing faintly red above button 8. Button 9. I didn't press it. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to get out of that elevator immediately. I stepped out, and Luna practically tackled me, licking my face like I'd returned from war. She knew I'd been close to making a terrible mistake, but 2 girls didn't have Luna to warn them. September 27th, Emma and Sophie, both 17, entered St. Helena at 11:58 p.m. They completed Rule 1, hearing the correct message. They navigated floor 4 without looking into the open rooms. Then they entered the elevator together. Security footage shows the elevator doors closing at 12:18 a.m., with both girls visible inside. At 12:19 a.m., the doors opened again. Only Emma stepped out. Sophie was gone. I reached Emma in the hallway. She was walking slowly, arms wrapped around her stomach, mumbling incoherently. When I finally got her attention and asked where Sophie was, Emma looked at me with completely empty eyes and said, "Sophie went to floor 9. She wanted to see who they were operating on." Police arrived within 20 minutes. They searched for 5 days, brought in specialist teams, used equipment I'd never seen before. Sophie was never found. A week later, a maintenance technician discovered something in the elevator shaft. A white sneaker, size 7, women's. It was Sophie's shoe. Inside was fresh blood, still slightly damp. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Sophie. But there was no body, no other evidence. No explanation for how her shoe ended up in a shaft that had been thoroughly searched. Emma was hospitalized for psychological evaluation. She didn't speak for 2 weeks. When she finally started talking again, she could only draw pictures. The same picture over and over, a black door with the number 9 above it, and something with too many arms reaching through from the other side. Rule 4 takes you to floor 7, the old intensive care unit where the sickest patients once fought for their lives. The protocol is specific. Walk to the end of the west hallway. You'll find a door with a sign reading "Restricted Access Authorized Personnel Only." Knock 3 times. If someone answers from inside, leave immediately. If there's no answer, open the door and enter. Floor 7 has always disturbed me more than the other floors. The air feels wrong there, heavy and cold, even though the building's climate control has been offline for years. Luna absolutely refuses to set paw on floor 7. During my patrols, she waits at the stairwell entrance while I complete my rounds, and I've learned not to stay up there longer than necessary. I'd never noticed the restricted room until October 14th. I'd walked that west hallway hundreds of times. But that night at 1:30 a.m., I saw a door that I could swear wasn't there before. Or maybe it had always been there, and something had just made me notice it. The sign read exactly as the protocol described. Restricted access, authorized, personnel only. I tried my master key. None of my keys fit the lock. I was about to leave when I heard something from inside the room. The steady beep of a heart monitor. Impossible, because the power had been cut throughout the building. I pressed my ear against the door. Behind the beeping, I heard breathing. Slow, labored, wet breathing like someone drowning. And underneath that, I heard words being whispered over and over in a voice I couldn't identify. Help me. Help me. Help me. I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I ran back to the stairwell where Luna was waiting, and we didn't stop until we reached the ground floor. When I checked the security cameras, floor 7's west hallway showed only a blank wall where that door should have been. No door. No sign. Just wall. 2 weeks later, an 18-year-old named Daniel completed the first 3 rules. I didn't know he was in the building until Luna started barking frantically and pulling me toward the floor 7 stairwell. By the time I got there, Daniel was standing in front of that restricted door with his hand on the doorknob. "Don't!" I shouted. Too late. The door opened easily under his hand. I caught a glimpse inside. A small room with a single hospital bed. Someone was lying there, completely covered by a white sheet. The sheet was moving rhythmically, up and down, like breathing. The door slammed shut with Daniel inside. I pulled at the handle, pounded on the door, screamed his name. Luna barked continuously. From inside, I heard Daniel scream. Not a scream of pain, a scream of absolute terror, the sound of someone seeing something the human mind can't process. The screaming lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then silence. Police broke down the door 15 minutes later. Inside was an empty room, no bed, no medical equipment, just bare walls and a boarded window. Daniel was gone. 3 days later, a janitor found Daniel's body stuffed in a cleaning closet on floor 2. He'd been dead for hours. The autopsy revealed his lungs were full of water. He'd drowned in an abandoned hospital where all water had been shut off a year ago. The 5th rule isn't part of the challenge. It's the only rule that can save you. I call it follow the dog. Floor 8, the old psychiatric ward, is the most dangerous part of St. Helena. It closed in 2015 after a series of incidents. 4 patient suicides in 1 month. 2 staff members severely injured, and Dr. Evelyn Cross, a psychiatrist who disappeared during her night shift. They found Dr. Cross a week later in the isolation room. She was alive but catatonic, unresponsive to all stimuli. The only words she spoke before dying 2 months later in another facility were, "They don't want to be healed. They want to be released." After those incidents, Floor 8 was permanently sealed. All stairwell doors leading to that floor were locked with specialized locks and covered in warning tape. Nobody goes to Floor 8. Except after midnight, those locks sometimes open themselves. Luna always knows when it happens. She'll stop mid-patrol, ears pointing straight up, staring at the ceiling as if she can see through the floors above us. Then she'll sprint toward the nearest stairwell. At first, I didn't understand. I thought she was chasing sounds only dogs could hear. But after 3 occasions, I realized Luna was running to save someone. She could sense when teenagers were trying to access Floor 8, and she'd race to intercept them before they went through those doors. November the 2nd, Luna saved a girl named Rachel who'd completed the first 4 rules. Rachel was standing at the Floor 8 entrance, hand reaching for the door handle when Luna arrived. My dog positioned herself between Rachel and the door, barking furiously, refusing to let the girl pass. I arrived 30 seconds later and pulled Rachel away. She was crying, saying she'd heard her girlfriend's voice calling from inside Floor 8. Her girlfriend had committed suicide a year earlier. She said she was waiting for me, Rachel sobbed. She said we could be together. Why didn't you go in? I asked. Rachel looked at Luna. Your dog wouldn't let me, and when I looked in her eyes, I knew that wasn't really my girlfriend's voice. It was something pretending. Luna saved Rachel's life that night, but she can't save everyone. November 8th, 3 boys bypassed security and reached Floor 8 before Luna detected them. By the time we got there, 2 boys were running down the stairs screaming. The 3rd boy, Marcus, had already gone through the door. I tried to follow, but Luna bit my pants leg and wouldn't let go. She was telling me that going through that door meant I wouldn't come back. Marcus's body was found 2 days later in the isolation room, the same room where they'd found Dr. Cross. He was sitting in the corner, eyes open, mouth stretched in a silent scream. He'd been dead for approximately 36 hours. On the wall behind him, written in what the police report described as biological matter, were 5 words. They have been released. That's everything, Detective. 5 rules that have cost 11 lives so far. Probably more that we don't know about. You have the files, missing persons reports, autopsy findings, security footage showing these kids entering the building and never leaving. You have more than enough evidence that something is happening here. But what can you do with it? Write a report that says an abandoned hospital is haunted? Recommend we demolish the building? Your superiors will laugh you out of the office. The mayor certainly won't help. He's been stalling the demolition for months, probably waiting for the property value to increase. A few missing teenagers won't change his mind. So Luna and I will keep working here. Someone has to warn the kids. Someone has to be here when Luna finds them standing in front of doors they shouldn't open. If you ever come back here, Detective, especially after dark, remember what I've told you. Bring a flashlight. Stay away from Floor 8 Don't answer the phone if it rings. Don't look into open rooms on floor 4. And most importantly, if you see Luna, if she approaches you and barks, don't ask questions. Just follow her. Immediately. Because that's the only rule that will keep you alive in St. Helena Hospital.